Hi everyone, this is Enzo and welcome to Series 2 of the Race Driver Coach Show. We're back. Yes, we're back and it feels so great. It's been so long. It's 2 months? 2 months since the series ended, or the season ended last time, but it's felt like eternity. I'm used to putting things out every week or two, and to not do it because we didn't have internet, we didn't have an office set up properly, it's killed me. But we're here now in a new office, new backdrop as you can see, fake wallpaper, or should I say real wallpaper, but fake brick effect on it, which looks pretty cool, do you think? With the shelves and everything in place, this is the new studio. This is where we'll be shooting everything from this season alone anyway, unless I'm out and about. And talking about out and about, the podcast. I'm going to turn the wick up on the podcast. No matter where I am, I'm going to record something and upload it to the podcast. Whether you listen to it already on iTunes or on SoundCloud, wherever it is, I'm going to make sure I pump more content on there. So it's not just the show, it's going to be lots of things in between. If I just think of something, or if I'm working with a driver on a certain topic and I know it would be great for the community, for the race driver coach community, or for you, I'm going to record it and upload it. So make sure you subscribe or listen in on the podcast because it's going to have a lot more content than YouTube or Facebook. What else has happened over these 2 months? Well, got lots of new drivers. Joined the APSM. Don't know if you've seen that. Andy Prio Sports Management. This is a program that's been developed by Andy Prio and John Pratt of iZone at Silverstone. And they're basically showing drivers, teaching them, training them to become pro or to remain pro, to make sure they've got performance management in place that makes certain that that driver is going to improve and is going to give themselves a best shot at becoming professional. You should check it out. I'm the performance coach or performance arm of that company, and it's so great to be a part of it because they're the mission that I believe in. They're helping drivers go from where they are now to where they want to be, and they've got all the tools there and putting our heads together with their contacts, what they've done on the driving side, what I do on the mental side and the driving side, it all comes together to offer drivers such quality for such a tiny amount of money. What they're charging, it's unbelievable. It's so low for the value you get, but it's great. So if you're into becoming pro, if you want to remain pro, if you want to get on in this sport and have a team behind you that are there just for you on the performance side and giving you career advice, then I can't see anything better than APSM. It's amazing. But anyway, that's what I've been doing. That's what's going to keep me busy with all the other drivers as well. But now, should I say, I want to come down to the topic of what we're talking about today. This is you and how you're going to improve for 2018. How you're going to develop yourself to become a better driver than you were last year. Have you got a plan in place? Are you already stressed about the season that's coming up, even though it's only just started or it hasn't started yet? Then I got some tips for you. From all the tips that I give drivers, and I've given the drivers over the last few months working face-to-face, I took 5. I thought, right, which 5 are the ones that I'm going to share with the race driver coach community, the 5 best ones I can possibly give them, to take, so they can take with them into the year and say, you know what, if I deliver on these 5, if I hold these 5 tips as a bit of a guiding tool to where I want to be and how I'm going to react and implement them into my work ethic and my plan, I am going to be a better driver this year. In fact, if you only take one of them and run with them, if you haven't been doing them up to now, it'll help you. So my top 5 tips for you being at your best this coming year are these. Number 1, it's not fair. This one rule is the simple rule that I tell everybody, but they seem to forget. They forget that motorsport isn't fair. Okay, they may put the work in more than other drivers. They may be faster, get this. They may be faster than certain drivers that have actually got more opportunity in the sport. You can have beaten somebody on track over and over again back in 2013 or whenever it was, but then you watch that driver and they become professional. They get to the heights, they get to F1, they get to DTM, they get to IndyCar, they get to NASCAR. They've got to something. They've got some kind of back-in that you're jealous of, but you know you can beat their ass because you've done it. Boo-hoo. That's life. That's motorsport. And it's just a slight tip, of course, but it's a realization that you must understand that not always the work you put in will automatically deliver the results you want. You can do everything right. You can do everything perfect, get it all in place, execute, yet the result is not what you wanted. Motorsport's like that. Life is like that. Whether you're into business, you're an entrepreneur or you run a company, it's the same for you. You can put all the effort in, but then another company will come along and they'll take a big share of that market and leave you wanting. It's normal. And I just want you to, it's too many drivers. I'm not talking to you specifically, obviously. Too many drivers got this fat chip on their shoulder, saying, oh, he's got this, she's got that. I did a scholarship, but I didn't win because it was politically decided to get someone else. And they wear that they wear that story as a big chip on their shoulder, and they hold it and they tell everyone about it, and it becomes their story of why they haven't got where they need to be. But I just want you to now, to face the fact that it isn't fair. The only fair thing is if you're not creating enough value in this sport. You've heard me say this tens of times. If you're not coming to this sport creating value for the people that can offer you opportunities, you're not going to get anything. And if you are creating the value, but you're not telling enough people about it, you're not showing people enough about it, again, the opportunity is not going to come your way. Some people get lucky. Some people just seem to bump into others and they get the opportunity which you deserve. But that's just chance. That's just luck. They were probably out there looking to spot this person. They were probably out there and just bumped into him, but now they've got to maintain it. Drivers can get near the top or get their chance, but to stay there, they've got to deserve it. I want you to remember that. So it may not be fair, but I just want you to realize that it isn't. But you still got to play the game, because no game in life or no game in sport is actually fair. Not every single person who's the fastest driver is in the top pro jobs at the moment, the pro drives. They're not there. Not everybody. There's plenty of drivers that are given more. There's plenty of drivers that are faster. There's plenty of drivers that deserve them drives more, but they're not there. They didn't happen to speak to the person at the right time to get that opportunity. Maybe their attitude doesn't quite fit. Maybe they got an injury at the wrong time and it made them miss that chance. It's just the way it is. So I want you to come into this game, this sport, knowing that you may give everything, but you may not get what you feel like you deserve. So if you ever hear parents, coaches, team managers or whatever say, oh, you deserve so much more, but this industry is rubbish, it doesn't really reward the people that put the effort in, just be above it all. Just say to yourself and say to them, and make sure you come from this place and say, I know it's not fair, but nothing is in life. I've just got to keep going. I've just got to keep providing value to the people that can open opportunities for me or offer them. And eventually it will work out if you're good enough. So remember, it might not be fair, but you got to make sure you're truthful on yourself. And if you're not good enough in a certain area, if you're not quick enough, if you're not very good at people skills, if you're not very good at influencing others and getting in there and your attitude's not right, it's going to seem like it's not fair, but it's because of those things that you're not getting the opportunities. But for now, tip 1, just know you've got to put everything into this, but just be prepared that sometimes you're not going to get what you feel like you deserve. It's just the way it is. Tip number 2, it's a people's game. It's a people's sport. Just like I said then, people skills is so important. Now, I ask drivers this a lot. What's stopping you now? If you've got a dream, say you've got a dream to be in the Blancpain, right? Or the biggest WEC, World Endurance Championship. You really want to be there. What's the one entity, the one part that is preventing you from doing this? And when I ask a driver this, they usually say money or connections, something like that. But what I'm really trying to get at is, okay, money, fine. You haven't got the money to do it. But what's stopping you getting the money? And eventually, if I keep asking what's stopping you and why, you get to the true answer. It's people. It's other people that are stopping me getting it. It's other people that are not giving me their money, companies. It's other people, bosses of teams, that are not allowing me or giving me the chance to test. So I want to come to you now and remind you that this sport may be for cars. It is a sport, motorsport, but really it's run by people. And if you become very good I mean, really good at winning people over, at influencing people and giving them what they want and talking their kind of language, providing them what they're after, then you'll get on in this sport. And if you notice drivers that seem to get drives all the time, even though their talent isn't that great, they seem to just get somewhere in motorsport, it's because they're doing something that is either inspiring others or it's communicating to them in a way that they like. They're like, yeah, I like that driver. I want to give that driver a chance. And if things are not happening for you, I want you to understand that all you've got to do is win people over as a driver. And it doesn't mean you got to have a certain personality. It just means you've got to know how to communicate. Because there's so many drivers out there with big goals and dreams as normal, but they're not really doing anything in the big world, in the real world. In reality, they're not going out there and talking to those people and showing them how much driving means to them, how much of a passion it is, and how quick they can go on track as well, obviously. But you've got to know how to win people over, give them what they're after, and in return, you get what you're after. It's a transaction. And if you're not very good at talking to others, if you're not very good at introducing yourself, if you're not very good at getting on with others and then influencing them to see you in a certain way, then that's something you need to work on. If you rub people up the wrong way, if your face doesn't fit, if your social media is embarrassing, you think, okay, I'm going to show this to Mercedes or BMW, my profile, or if they look you up on the internet, they're going to see what sort of person you are. If that doesn't fit the badge, if that doesn't fit the brand, the manufacturer, the image they're after, you're out. You're never going to get anywhere. So you've got to make sure that you're the kind of person that a manufacturer or a team would love to pay to be in their car. You've got to be a people person. You've got to win people over. You've got to get the power of people behind you to give you the decision, to give you the nod, to say that you're the right person to get in that car. Drivers are not doing this. In business, salesmen, that's all they think about, or a lot of it. They're trying to think, how can I kind of influence people but talk their language? How can I offer them something they want? This is where you've got to come from this year. Look at it in every single way, because your mechanic, right? Your mechanic that's a junior now, that's on your car, or was last year, he might be the boss of a team one day. And if you impress him or her, if you impress them, when they're at the top, they'll look at you and say, oh, he was a great driver. She was a great driver. They did everything that I would love a driver to do, and B, they can have a test. They can come in the car, and it works so often like that. You see people now that work their way up the ladder, in the actual workings of motorsport and drivers, but drivers pee them off on the way up, so they don't even get a look in. When that person's at the top, when that person's been promoted to the top of the team, they don't even get a look in. So be very conscious of how you're treating people in the sport, how you're coming across. And I want you to give a sort of image that people from the outside say, you've got it. I would love to give you a chance. Because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. When the team boss is thinking, who can I actually get to test my car because my current driver's sick, you want to be on their mind. Every single team boss that's on the route that you want to be in, every single one has got to think of you. Now, how can you do that? Answer that and execute on that this year. I'll tell you what, personality is massive. I was lucky enough to have a job for about 4 years for Gravity and Lotus Junior, and I had the golden finger. I could walk into a paddock, walk into a pit lane, and choose a driver that I liked. If he didn't have management, or she didn't have management at this particular moment, I could point at that driver and then say to the driver, would you like to go to F1? If so, we'd like to sign you up. And then we would pay for their racing all the way to F1. We would give them the coaching, the fitness training, the media training, every single training they needed, all the support, all the PR, all the contacts. Basically, it's a golden path to F1. As long as you keep winning, we're going to keep paying for you to go there. And we've got 3 drivers to F1. I think we've got 3 drivers to DTM out of about 15 to 20 drivers. So it's still difficult. But just understand that a lot of the time, okay, they had the skill on track. I was like, wow, they're fast enough. But if I saw them messing about, I saw they just didn't really give a toss about the whole thing. Their work ethic was down the toilet. And I thought they'd embarrass me in some way, I wouldn't choose them. But if I did think this person's going to put the work in, they're quick enough, I think we can get into F1, then I'd choose them, or I'd at least propose to them to join the program. Because you got to remember, in me choosing a driver, I'm putting my job on the line. Because if I choose the wrong one, then my bosses that have got all the money and the trust in me will lose trust in me. And I'll lose my job because I can no longer scout efficiently. Just remember that. This is probably one of the biggest tips. Like tip 1, like I said, you have got to understand that if somebody's going to choose you from a manufacturer, that person that chooses you, their job is on the line if they do choose you, if you mess up. Okay, so their reputation. So you've got to make sure you give them the confidence that you're the right kind of person. You act the right way. You fit with their image. It's easy to fit within a manufacturer's image, right? And you've got to think of the image. They've spent millions, if not billions, but now millions over the years to create a brand of what their car manufacturer stands for, or whatever it is they do, sponsors stand for. Now you just say, you wear that badge, then you just say one thing wrong in the press, you've totally destroyed a part of that. Someone's got to answer for it. You'll get the chop. So again, be a master of people. Don't just suck up to people and be what you think people have got to be. Be yourself, wear your heart on the sleeve and everything, but just be mindful that you've got to make sure that they can see that you want this, you've got the right work ethic, and you're going to make it happen. And you're a leader. You lead the team. When you're in the team, it's different when you're there in a positive way. And if you're doing that, you're winning everybody over just because of who you are. You're staying true to yourself. You're not being rude to people. You're not. Emotions are like up and down, so you can't perform consistently. None of that. You are the professional. Then eventually someone will knock at the door and say, you're my person. You're my driver. Do you fancy a shot? Tip number 3, master your mind. This is so important. Now, you know 80% pretty much, if not more, of what I teach and what I coach drivers and coach yourself on here is the mental side. It's how you can control or influence this thing that's in your skull, above your eyes, sort of between your ears, a bit higher. How you can influence that so it allows you to perform at your best. It allows you to deliver on demand, under pressure. When someone's behind you, attacking you, how you can still remain centered and drive your best. When you're qualifying and the tires are in, it's that lap you've got to do it. What do? Do you normally overdrive, think too much, double think, hesitate, overbrake, try and then make up for the mistake you've made in turn 1 and do every other corner better than you've done them before, so you attack each one and make even more mistakes? What happens? Well, usually this is all about the mind, obviously. Your mental state, your mood, your mode that you're in is so pivotal and it's so in control. It's the biggest influencer on your results, on how you can access the skill, the talent that you've got. You've got to allow it to come through. Like if I ask a driver now, think of a time, and I'm going to ask you, think of a time when you drove at your best and you could do no wrong. Can you remember it? That time when you won the race, that time when you came from the back and won it, or came near the front and just drove through around everybody, seamless, and you got your best result. Explain that person who was in control then. Explain you. Write down the qualities, what you were focusing on. What was it like? What were you thinking of? And you got like pretty much, you can do a profile of who was in control of the car then. Then after you've done that, this is a little exercise. After you've done that, switch to the person, and you can remember being this person when they were driving and they were pretty much out of control mentally. They were beaten by the pressure, they were overdriving, they were frustrated. Now just describe that person. What's that person saying to themselves, you back then? What were they thinking? What were they focusing on? How were they holding their body, the breathing? In other words, how did you single-handedly, no matter what's going on the outside, how did you come up with the emotion of frustration or stress or feeling of pressure? Whatever it was that was defeating you, how did you create that? Get really curious, really want to know this answer. How did I create that mental mode? Because it's that mental mode that destroyed me that day. And now you'll have two, right? You'll have two different people there. One when you're at your best and one when you're pretty much at your worst. What I want you to spend this year knowing is how you can be more in the zone and less at that stress head or whatever it was that you were when you were messing up in the track or off the track. It could have been something else. It could have been a different sport. It could have, if you haven't driven yet, it could be a different sport. It could be on a simulator, and one day you were perfect and you just don't know how, and the other day you were not, you were stressed. It will come down to your mental mode, the state of mind you're in before you get in that car or while you're in it. And you've got to know the makeup, because every single emotion we have, whether you like this or not, and I want you to believe this, even if it's a fictitious thing to believe, I want you to believe that you are in control, or you can massively influence your emotions. You create them by what you focus on, what thoughts, where the head goes, and how you hold your body, your breathing, your facial expression. All of it. You create a certain emotion. This is the mental game. You've got to be at your best when you're in that car, and the best way to be at your best is to create the mental state needed when you're driving, or when you're getting into that car, or just before you get on the grid. There's no point having all this mental prep and then go to the collection area and work yourself up and go down that way. You can change your emotions in a heartbeat. You've got to do it just before you compete and continue to keep it up whilst you're in the car. This is what people don't talk about. They're all about prep. But when you're in the car and you're offered a new challenge, how do you handle them things? That's what you need to work on this year. Become a master at that. And again, when I ask a driver, how did you perform like that if they were amazing in this race? What did it feel like? What were you focusing on? What were you thinking? And they find it really hard. They say, well, it was all slow. It seemed to come really slowly, and it was smooth, not dramatic. It was easy. I was loose on the wheel, and they start to describe what they were. But they do find it hard. They find it very difficult to actually say everything. That's because the subconscious was in control a lot of the time. So your conscious, I'm asking your conscious now what happened, and it's thinking, it's searching. Oh, I don't know, because I wasn't really there. It was the subconscious that was running the show more than I was then. Interesting. Less you think, right? The less you think, the less you think about, and the more you do, the better you actually act. This is a part of your life I want you to really focus on throughout this season coming. And it could be your self-confidence. It could be how you are in front of people. It's all mental. It's all you creating an emotion that puts you in a frame of mind so then you can deliver yourself to others. Make this a priority. If you've got a question on this area, get it in and I'll answer it on the show. And I'll show you techniques of how to create the mental you, the best you can be mentally. And then you can perform as you can and access that talent, all them laps that you've done in the past. It's great. This is the area that I think is the biggest secret for drivers. And if they master this, not only does it help them on track, it helps them off track, it helps them in life, in relationships, in the businesses they set up after racing, in every single part, in your health. Certain emotions, negative emotions, create chemicals in the body that are detriment to your health. So it's important. Number 4, it will take time. Not only the mental side will take time, but the whole thing. You progressing where you want to be in this sport will take time. You need to employ patience like never before, because you're going to be working like crazy, but your progression through the career takes so long. I mean, you can have everything mapped out. You can have it all there for you to do, you know, all the money you could ever want. And you say this step, this step, this step, and win these championships and move up, but it still takes ages. It still doesn't go to plan. You still feel like you're putting so much effort in, but getting little reward. Get used to it. If you're trying to achieve anything, it's all the same. Racing, business, any sport, you're going to have to put maximum effort, 100% effort just to get like 2% gain. That is the ratio, right? You've got to keep doing that. And you've got to keep the faith that you're doing the right thing. As long as you're pointing the right way, going towards the goal you want to go, and you just do it, you do the action needed, and you take the feedback, you adjust and go again. You just keep doing that, you will get there. You just got to have the faith that it's going to work. You've got to be really aware of what you're doing is actually working or not. If you've got a certain weakness in a certain area, but you're not really admitting it or you're not facing it, that's going to punish you. So be really critical of yourself. Get other people to say, to tell you what you're doing wrong. Ask them, what do you think I'm doing wrong? And if they can't answer, really dig deep. Say, come on, there's something I'm not doing. Is it the way I look? Is it the way I talk to people? Is it my actual driving skill? Is it the actual qualifying? Am I fast enough? If you get lots of no's in these areas, then you know what to work on. So be honest with yourself. This is going to take time, even if you're doing the right things. So make sure you're doing the right things early on. Get better and better, but just understand that this is a freaking long thing that you're going for here. There's no rush. Just because this 16-year-old has just gone and done something you have been trying to do for the last 10 years doesn't mean that you should lose hope. It just means you've got to change tact. You're on a different path to them. They had different opportunities. Get over it. It's not fair. And remember, it's not fair. It's just the way it is. So you're on your own trajectory towards what trajectory? Said that wrong, didn't I? Towards what you want. So just focus on your own game, which takes us in to number 5. Step number 5, you're only competing with yourself. You are the person. Okay, there's lots of other people competing against themselves and other people out there, but I want you to focus on you. How can you be better than yesterday? This is a tip that I really want you to do because it will be mental, it will be on track, it'll be every single place. What did I do last year? What did I do at the last test that isn't good enough? That I want to make sure that I quash and I improve next time out. And I beat the person I was yesterday or last week. Be fascinated on putting yourself down. Be fascinated on beating yourself. Because if you don't, other people will. And it'll be more public. But every single time you come out of that car, and I mean every single time, you give the data feedback and all this to the engineer, fine. But what about you personally? How can you perform better? Okay, there's a few things on the driving. Simplify them down to apply for the next time out. Just 1 or 2 things you need to improve on the driving, but also mentally. Physical. How can I improve physically? Because maybe I'm hanging onto the car a bit too much and I shouldn't be. I should be not breathing this deep. It's distracting me. All the areas and outside the car. How can I now become a better salesperson? How can I make sure that what I'm selling to people, sponsors, the package, how can I make that even more sellable, even more attractive? That's got to beat yesterday as well. And this becomes a new fascination of yours. How to be better. It's a pursuit that never ends. The goal you can reach. Yeah, you can reach a goal, but then you're like, what next? But the pursuit of personal perfection, which is never reached, by the way, and being better and competing against the person you were yesterday, that goes on forever. And it makes you hard to beat. If somebody's beat you today, they know that you're going to start working on it. They know that that's not going to be a weakness of yours anymore. Again, be fascinated and becoming better and improving the you that you are now. So tomorrow's you will kick your ass. Just like the drivers nowadays would kick the ass of many of the heroes that we admire in the past. Because how advanced we are now. How much training we get now. How much more switched on we are. How the world has sort of brought itself up to train us better. I think we'd be shocked at the heroes we admire and all these XF1 stars and IndyCar stars, how much our youngsters now would kick their ass. But it's the way it is. It's just evolution. Every sport's got it. But you've got to do evolution within your lifetime, on you. Another fascination. Another tip. Now these 5 tips, just run through them again. Number 1, it's not fair. Number 2, it's a people game. Number 3, master your mind. Number 4, it will take time. And number 5, you're only competing with yourself. Just remember these. I mean, just take one of them and run with it this year and say, right, I'm going to really master this one. I'm going to have this one as one of my main things that I'm going to improve on and hold and make sure that I fulfill throughout the season. And it will help you. It will stop you just doing the same thing over and over again like so many drivers do. I see a driver now, I said it before, 10 years later, and they've still got the same weaknesses and the same pitfalls as they had back when I knew them 10 years ago. Don't be like that. They obviously haven't got number 5 on their list there of competing against themselves. But you don't need to fall for that. Pick one, do all 5, whatever, the top 2 that fit with you most. Run with them this year. And I promise that you will improve. Even if the results don't, because maybe the car's not as good this year that you've got. But you will as a driver. And over time, you will benefit from that. That's all for now. Now, just get in touch with any of the questions again. We're kicking off season 2. I want as many questions as I can. I've got loads as it is. Thank you, everybody, for them. We're going to start answering them soon in the next episodes. But for now, goodbye, and I'll speak to you soon.